boat's just pivoting round, but I think we've got our anchorage and I think it's secure. So I'm going to turn this off. Without going into any of the details, this I got it as a bit of a source of stress relief, this boat, and I've spoken to this before in an earlier video that when there were restrictions on travel, the boat allowed me and anyone I took with me to sort of get past that to a certain point. But in the last 12 months, I haven't really done what I wanted to do with it, because without going into details, my life got turned upside down by some things that took place, and only in the last 4 weeks have I got back into a kind of routine. I'm not going to go into the details because I kind of want to stay away from the politics, because this is all about glass half full. What kind of activities can you do to, you know, relieve stress and to look at the positive side of life, even when not everything is always positive. And, you know, sailing is one of those things for me. But I haven't done all the things I wanted to do. And there are some other people who are new to sailing, keelboats in their sailing club, who've done quite a bit more in those last 12 months. They've gone over to the other side of the Gulf. They've gone down south. They've travelled with other sailors. And yeah, I've just felt that I've got to get back on the bike in that respect, figuratively speaking. And when you start thinking about taking a 23-foot boat places where it can be extremely exposed to the weather, you've got to start thinking about the things you have to do. I guess there's a big long list of them, and it reminds me of a scene from a series I like called From the Earth to the Moon that was made in the 90s, and they're talking about what do you have to do to land a person on the moon, and there's a whole series of goals that you have to achieve, and you can't go on to the next goal until you've achieved them. And it's the same for sailing in waters that can be quite exposed. So some of these things I've done, some of these things I'm happy with, some of them not so much. So for example, you need an engine that's going to be reliable. I mean, it's not your first choice of propulsion, but you do need it. And I had some real problems with the motor for quite a while, but that is now pretty much fixed. It's extremely reliable, running unleaded petrol. I'm pretty happy with it. So that one is done. We can tick it off the list for the moment, but we just got to keep maintaining it. The boat itself had some questions about the cable on the center plate, but that's been looked at when I had the boat out of the water. For 8 months in the water, it handled it pretty well with very few signs of wear. That's been replaced. I should get another 8 to 12 months out of this one, so that one's done. Good coat of anti-foul paint on at the moment, happy with that. You have to be comfortable dealing with weather as it comes up and reefing the sail. And in the last 2 months or so, I have actually started doing that. I wouldn't say I'm doing it as well as I want to do it. It's still a bit of a handful, takes a while, but we can actually sail in much stronger winds than we were when I started this. And I just got to get better at it, and I've got to get my crew members, whoever go with me, to be comfortable with doing these things too. So, you know, one can do one thing and the other one can work on the other tasks. So that still needs a bit of work. Again, seamanship skills of other people coming on, because I want to share this adventure with other people who are interested, and just having them have the opportunity to come out. Need to do a little bit more of that. Speaking to some family members, they might even come out. I even got a young niece, bit young to do those kind of trips, but I'm sure she'd like to steer the boat. That would be fun. I have to get a GPS system installed. I've got a good marine GPS system, but it's not installed, and the battery system is a bit questionable. So that is on the to-do list. Redundant means of navigation. I've just downloaded an app today, and I'm going to talk about this app in more detail in this video, because it's the one that everyone seems to use on their phones or on their iPads or what have you. You've got to be happy with the anchor you use. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But you want at least a backup anchor as well, and you want to consider the bottom you're anchoring in. So this is a silty bottom where we're anchored here, so the kind of anchor I've got now, which is a kind of plough, it's fine here, But if we go further down south and do it on a rocky bottom or a sandy bottom, I'm not so sure. And the only way to do that is to trial and error with it and see how well they hold. Yep, plenty of recommendations, but you know, this is a 1,200 kilogram boat. It's not particularly heavy, and I've just got to try these things out. I've got to be comfortable sleeping on the boat overnight. So I've done that alongside, no problem, but I've not done that at anchor yet. That's definitely something I would have thought I would have done by now, but I haven't, so that's on the to-do list. I've got to be comfortable going into a marina that I'm not familiar with and berthing there. Again, sounds simple, but with this particular motor, it's outboards have their benefits, but they're not always easy to berth with. So I've just got to get used to doing that. So that's on the to-do list. And I'm sure I can think of a dozen other things off the top of my head that I need to do to be comfortable taking this boat on a trip that isn't just for the day, isn't just overnight, but go for a weekend, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. If you have a 4-week trip, what do you take to eat? What do you take to cook it? You've got to consider all these things. So this is all on the agenda in the months to come, and I'm sure you're going to be seeing some more videos about that. But tonight I'm going to talk to you about this app that I've downloaded today. So this is the Navionics Boating App, which is available on the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, and I do. You can get a free 15-day trial, which is what I'm doing at the moment, and then you've got to pay for a subscription if you want to continue using it. So this is my local sailing area. I'm just going to show you a few things today that are quite handy. This is the Port River. I go up and down there all the time. And one of the things I think is going to be a very powerful tool is this automatic route finding. I put the start point here, and I'm going to put the finish point. You can do this manually, by the way, but I'm going to put the finish point out at a point of interest, which is this icon there. It's actually a wreck. And you might have seen that line just changed in front of you. What it's actually done is it's given me a route that steers clear of navigation hazards. So basically it's in the shipping channel in between the markers. And as we come out of the Port River, it's steered clear of navigation hazards there, the seawall, and then it's taken a bearing off to the wreck. And it's giving you, well, basically says 16.5 kilometers, a couple of hours, 2 hours 13 minutes actually, and 2.2 liters of fuel. It didn't just plug that out of thin air. I gave it some details, and it basically knows what my boat is, how, you know, how heavy it is, the draft, some details about the motor. You can stick that in there and it can work some things out. I'm going to show you a couple of other things very quickly. The overlays, you will notice that if I change between nautical chart and sonar chart, you get some more details, some contours that appear. Again, that's a fairly basic version of the app. The overlays below, if I was to select any of them, for example, sonar shading, again, you can see some more details come up. But some of these things I think are only available if you're paying quite a good subscription, but they may well be worth it because I've seen some really good details. So relief shading, when I press this, I don't get much by way of details, but I've seen some really good stuff in some other videos, but you do have to pay a bit of money for that. So we'll come to that at a later stage, perhaps. Today, I'm going to keep it simple, no overlays, and I'm just going to show you another really handy tool, and that's these compass dividers down here. So if I'm on top of the Norma again, on top of the wreck, and I press the icon, I can work out, and I'm just using my thumb and my index finger, as you do with a lot of things on smartphones. I'm going to look for the Largs jetty, which is looks pretty small here, but there it is. And I can tell you that that's pretty much due east, 092 at 5.8 kilometers. And if I want to see the reciprocal, which is like just the opposite, I just press the red and you'll see that turn purple, and the red is now at the other end. If you're standing on the end of the jetty, that means bearing 272 at 5.8 kilometers is the Norma wreck. So if you felt like a long swim, that's where it would be.
So yeah, just a few very simple things I'm showing you today. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and use this app for a while, and once I get familiar with it, I'm going to do a longer video on Navionics, and hopefully I can put some really good information in it.